Okay, welcome to week 3 of our keyboard harmony in November. We're working in distant keys: F sharp major, D sharp minor, B major, G sharp minor, D flat major, B flat minor. These are the keys that are at the opposite end of the circle of fifths, opposite from C, F, G, the very familiar keys. And today we're going to do a circle of fifths progression, which means you can use this circle with everything fifth related to help you. We're going to do this in the key of F sharp major to begin with, and then we're going to go to D sharp minor. So we start, of course, with the chord of F sharp, which is the fifth of B. Now, for the next one, B is the fifth of E, but actually, we're going to go to E sharp. Remember that, if we're doing pure fifths, perfect fifths, I should say, if we're doing perfect fifths, B would be the fifth of E, right? It's the perfect fifth above E. But if we go to E, it knocks us out of the key of F sharp. So we've got to stay in the key of F sharp major, which means we go to E sharp. Now, what I want to show you is I decided it would make sense to go straight across the circle to F, but we're thinking enharmonically now, so I added E sharp up here. Okay, so it's a little bit of a workaround. Okay, so again, let's just review that. We're gonna go F sharp to B to E sharp at a thinking key, which is the fifth of A sharp. It'll end up being A sharp minor if you're in the key of F sharp, and then A sharp is the fifth of D sharp. Right, that is our relative minor. And D sharp is the fifth of G sharp, also a minor chord in the key of F sharp major. And then G sharp is the fifth of C sharp, which is our fifth in the key of F sharp major. Okay, so that's how we're going to go around the circle, but you see we sort of cut through half of it. All right, so let's think again about our F sharp major scale. We've got F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B, C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, F sharp. And our chords, F sharp major is 1. This is what we're going to use for our circle of fifths progression. G sharp minor is 2. A sharp minor is 3. Don't forget that E sharp at the top. I know it's a little bit unusual. B major is 4, C sharp major is 5, D sharp minor is 6, E sharp diminished is 7, and then F sharp at the top of the scale. So the first thing I would do for circle of fifths, always playing the root of the chord in my left hand, and that helps to underpin things. So remember, we start with 1. F sharp is the fifth of B, which is the fifth of E sharp. Now again, B to E sharp is actually a diminished fifth. So in order to stay in key, we've got a diminished fifth. So we just have to get used to that, right? B is the fifth of E sharp the fifth of A sharp, which is the fifth of D sharp, which is the fifth of G sharp, which is the fifth of C sharp, which is the fifth of F sharp. There we go. We can just map the whole movement just in the left hand. Get really comfortable with that. You could even just play that first a few times just to underpin and see, how does this feel in the left hand? Remember that so much of what we're doing in our keyboard harmony lessons is not just analyzing, but it's feeling the key in the hand. All right, and then let's add chords above. Now I try to do nice voice leading. So I start, you can see, with root position 1 in the right hand. Then I keep the F sharp and pull the A sharp and C sharp up to make, I voiced it as a second inversion, right, in the right hand. Then we have root position E sharp in the right hand, and then second inversion A sharp. So you see the pattern, right? Again, you can just play that very slowly, sink into each key. You really start to get a sense of how this key feels in the hand. Then same thing here, we've got D sharp. These are all in root position, by the way, because the root is in the bass, and that's actually how we define our inversion. What note of the chord is in the bass? Is it the root? Is it the third? Is it the fifth? But in the right hand, we can talk about voicing. So here on the second line, I voiced D sharp minor as a root position triad, and then we go to G sharp minor, keep that D sharp, but then add G sharp and B above, and there's your G sharp minor. So I voiced it as a second inversion. And then here we get C sharp minor, or sorry, C sharp major. All right. Sorry, I have a little error on my score, so please ignore it. That's not an E double sharp, it's just E sharp. So I must have been working in finale and had been working in the minor mode. My apologies for that. But you know what? Let's turn it instead into what we call a courtesy accidental. No problem being reminded that E is E sharp. So here what I've done, we've got the root in the bass, right? C sharp in the bass. And then I have C sharp in root position, right? That's how I voiced it in the right hand. But then I take the root down to the 7th, which I love to hear that bit of tension, and then it resolves to the A sharp of that chord. You see what I mean? There's like a little inner line here. C sharp, B, A sharp. It just gives it a little nice, lovely bit of voice leading that sounds wonderful. Now, let's put that all together. Remember, think and feel in the key of F sharp major. Ready? Let's go quite fast. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 7 to 3 to 6 to 2 to 5, 7 to 1. Okay, and you can even challenge yourself. How fast can you go? You can find other voicings for your right hand. You know, you can go above and beyond this little exercise, or you can just stick to this exercise. Now let's do the same thing for the relative minor. We've got D sharp minor. So first the scale, if you see the hollow notes, right? We've got D sharp, E sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp. We're going to have B natural, C sharp, and C double sharp. So I've put in both 7ths and then D sharp. Remember that the natural minor would just have a C sharp going to D sharp. And if we go from C sharp to D sharp, that's a whole tone, yeah? It leaves out the leading note, right? The leading note is always a semitone below the tonic. So you can have either. And in the minor mode, if you look at pieces in the minor mode, it will often give you what we call the subtonic, the major 7, as part of the piece. And then the leading note returns somewhere, right? You see the raised 7th. And that comes from the harmonic minor scale. So the minor mode actually, in terms of typical chords, because there are a lot of other chords possible, but typically these are the chords of the minor mode. So we have minor 1, diminished 2, major 3, minor 4. I'm going to put in major 5. Sometimes people also include the minor 5, and the difference again is this C double sharp. This is why I have them ringed in red, right? This is the leading note. But if you made the C double sharp into a C sharp, not a C double sharp, you get a minor quality 5. So sometimes people use that in pop, rock, or folk settings, yeah? Or maybe sometimes jazz as well. Let's keep going though. For here, we're gonna have a major 5, so A sharp major, and then a major 6, B major, and then we'll have a major 7, that's the subtonic, but we'll also have the diminished 7 with C double sharp as the root, and then D sharp minor. All right, let's look at what this looks like. In our left hand, we've got, starting on scale degree 1, right? D sharp is the 5th of G sharp, which is the 5th of C sharp, which is the 5th of F sharp, which is the 5th of B, which is the 5th of E sharp. Always it's the 5th relation, which is the 5th of A sharp, which is the 5th of D sharp. Okay, so again, just play that pattern in your hand. Now, I don't keep going down by 5th because I'd run out of space. There, I'm out of space. Actually, I do have one more note, E sharp. That's it for my piano. I have a little short piano up here. I'm in the sitting room, not the music room. So there you have it, you know. And so in order to prevent that from happening, the pattern is down a 5th, up a 4th, down a 5th, up a 4th, down a 5th. Now, that doesn't mean I'm moving by 4ths. No, I'm not. Always D sharp is the fifth of G sharp. G sharp is the fifth of C sharp, but instead of going down to the C sharp, I go up for practical reasons. So it's still all fifth relation. I hope that makes sense, because sometimes people get confused about that. Now, similar to the F sharp major in the right hand, my voicing is root position 1, second inversion, what is that, 4, yeah, and then root position 7, going to second inversion 3, right? So it's, and then is how I think, yeah, oh, right, that's right. It's a little bit different at the end because I put the 7th in. There you go. All right, so it's the same voicing. Notice though, on the first time that we go to 7, we go to the major 7, we go to the subtonic here. But by the end, we add the leading note back in, the double sharp. Yeah, I think that's where I made a mistake on F sharp major. I must have done this one first. Right, let's play the whole thing, okay? So let's go sort of medium pace, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, goes to 4, goes to 7, goes to 3, goes to 6, goes to 2, and then 5, 7, 7 to 1. Now as that gets more familiar, you can challenge yourself. How fast can you go? To work on my cadence there. So the thought of A sharp major, yeah, it's still something that I have to really work on being familiar with. But of course, it's an important chord. It's the 5 in this key. So you know, this is F sharp major. It's directly opposite, or sorry, D sharp minor. It's directly opposite of C major, A minor. So it's got a lot of chromatics in it. Now, that's enough for our video, but I want to challenge you to do the same thing, circle of fifths in B major and G sharp minor, and then circle of fifths progression in D flat major and B flat minor. Just build it up in the left hand to begin with, and then add your chords over the top. It will really exercise your ability not just to think in a key, but to really feel how that feels in the hand. All right, and I'll see you on the first Monday of the month for what to listen for in music.